We have just about a single week left in Season of the Deep, thank God. So it's time to round out my top 3 builds for each class, finishing this little series up with Warlocks. Warlocks are vital in any sort of content with the utility they provide, and with the artifact mods we have this season, some of these builds are just absurd. We're going to be starting off with arguably my favorite build this season for Warlocks, and that is going to be the Fallen Sunstar on Arc. In the subclass here, we've got Chaos Reach, Healing Rift, Burst Glide, Ball Lightning, and then Pulse Grenades. For our aspects, we're going to be going with Arc Soul and Electrostatic Mine, and then our fragments are going to be Spark of Shock, Spark of Discharge, Spark of Beacons, and Spark of Magnitude. This build is all about generating ionic traces, and this will allow us to do just that with all of our utility in our subclass, as well as some of the weapons we're using. But before we get into the weapons, some stats you want to go for: Resilience, Recovery, and Discipline. These will allow us to have the most damage resistance and regenerate our abilities as fast as possible. In our artifact, what you want to make sure you grab for the Arc build here is going to be authorized mods Arc, Amped Up, Thunderous Retort, Electric Armor, and Lightning Strikes twice. You could also grab Shock and Awe. Now let's take a look at some weapons to bring along, and in the kinetic slot, I will always recommend Riptide. This thing is hands down my favorite and probably the only one I use 95% of the time in the kinetic slot, especially with auto-loading Chill Clip. In our energy slot here, just go with Cold Heart. This thing is so strong. Trace rifles paired with fusion rifles in the meta right now are absolutely ridiculous and super strong. Cold Heart is no exception here. This thing generates ionic traces left, right, and center. Pairing that with Fallen Sunstar and our subclass, you're going to be having ability spam like no tomorrow. Our heavy slot is where you have a bit more leeway for using whatever you want. You could go with the Hothead, you could even go with a Storm Chaser, or you could go with an LMG or even a GL. Choice is up to you. Just make sure it's Arc so you can take advantage of some of the mods we have. And speaking of mods, on our helmet, we're going to go with Ashes to Asset, a Harmonic Siphon, and then a Dynamo. Our gauntlets are going to have Bolstering Detonation, Momentum Transfer, and Firepower. And then on our chest piece, we're going to go with 3 resistance mods. You could throw a Charged Up in there over one of the resistance mods if you'd like. And then on our boots here, we're going to be going with 2 Arc Weapon Surges so we can get some more benefit out of our Arc weapons, and then an Elemental Charge so our Ionic Traces are going to be able to give us armor charges. And then finally on our class item here, we're going to go with a Reaper and an Outreach, and then a Bomber for the most amount of ability regen, and then spawning orbs. Now for our second build here, we're going to be going with Sunbracers on Solar, and while Solar doesn't have any artifact mods this season, this build is still absolutely super strong and super fun to use. All you got to do is snap your fingers and you're going to have grenade spam like no tomorrow. In our subclass here, we have the Well of Radiance, Phoenix Dive, or you could use Healing Rift if you want. Then we have Burst Glide, Incinerator Snap, and Solar Grenades. You could also use Celestial Fire, but I would wait until next season since this technically doesn't work for Sunbracers right now, which is why we're using Incinerator Snap. Heat Rises and Touch of Flame will be our aspects here, and our fragments are going to be Ember of Resolve, Ember of Ashes, Ember of Searing, and Ember of Mercy. When we look at some stats that you want to go for, it's going to be the exact same here, except for instead of Discipline, we're going to go with Strength. So it's going to be Resilience, Recovery, and Strength, so we can get that snapback so we don't have to worry about our grenades. For weapons to bring along, again, Riptide, you know the deal with this one. And then you could also go with Prometheus Lens or Akaja's Dejection for your energy weapon. And then if you choose to use Akaja's Dejection, you could run Galahorn in the heavy slot. Or if you go with Prometheus Lens, you could run something like Fixed Odds. The choice is up to you. For our armor mods here on the helmet, we're actually going to go with a Heavy Ammo Finder, Ashes to Assets, and Harmonic Siphon since we don't really need anything else aside from that. You could change out Heavy Ammo Finder for hands-on if you'd like. On the gauntlets, we go with Momentum Transfer, Firepower, and Bolstering Detonation. The chest piece, the same as always, 3 resistance mods, or you can go with 2 resistance mods and a Charged Up. On the boots, we're going to go with a Recuperation so we can get some health back, a Solar Weapon Surge to take advantage of armor charges, and then an Invigoration so we can get that melee cooldown a little bit less when we pick up an orb. And then on our class item here, we're going to go with Double Outreach so we can get that snapback even faster, and then a Time Dilation to extend our weapon surges. And then our final build here is going to be none other than Nezarek's Sin on the Void subclass. There are 3 different exotics that honestly pair super well with the Void subclass, them being Controverse Holds, Nothing Manacles, and Nezarec Sin. And I think Nezarec Sin is honestly just the best neutral game one when it comes to all of that. So that's why I choose to go with Nezarec Sin over the other 2. In our subclass here, we're going to go with Nova Bomb. I like to run Slova, which is Cataclysm. You could also run the Vortex Nova Bomb if you'd like. Healing Rift, Burst Glide, Pocket Singularity, and then Vortex Grenades for our utility, with our aspects being Feed the Void for Devour, and then Child of the Old Gods. Our fragments are going to be Echo of Undermining, Echo of Expulsion, Echo of Remnants, and Echo of Persistence. For our stat recommendations here, it's going to be the same as always: Resilience, Recovery, and Discipline. And then in the artifact, if you want to take full advantage of this build, go with Authorized Mods Void, Unto the Breach, Protective Breach, and Supernova. Now, when we take a look at the weapons to bring along, you guessed it, Riptide in the kinetic slot. In the energy slot, Wave Splitter. This is hands down my favorite trace rifle in the game right now. Supercharged battery, and with all the orbs that we make with this build, it is perfect. It does so much damage. It is incredible. Absolutely bring this one along. And then in the heavy slot, again, bring something that's void, but it can be whatever you want. I personally like to use Corrective Measure. Again, though, the choice is up to you when it comes to that. And then finally, for our armor mods here, we're going to go with a Hands-On, Ashes to Assets, and a Harmonic Siphon on the helmet. On our gauntlets, we're going to go with Firepower, Impact Induction, and Bolstering Detonation. Chest piece, as always, 3 resistance mods, or you could go with a Charged Up and 2 resistance mods. On our boots, Elemental Charge and 2 Void Weapon Surges, so we can take advantage of the Void Breaches being constantly spawned, so we can get armor charges to allow us to have more damage from our Void weapons. And then on our class item, 2 Bombers and a Reaper. For me, these 3 builds were the only 3 I had in my arsenal this season, especially with the raw power that Void and Arc had in the artifact, and just the sheer strength of Sunbracers, even without artifact mods. These 3 were no-brainers for me, and they are must-haves for any Warlock main, even without the artifact mods that improve Arc and Void that we have this season. We are finally just about at the time for the new season, and I'm ready to hit it hard. I'm so excited for the showcase and season 22. If you want to be there to catch all the action as the showcase reveals all that's coming for the future of Destiny, then be sure to hop on over and give me a follow over on Twitch. I'll be grinding a ton over there in the new season, so don't miss out. And make sure you also go drop a follow over on TikTok, as we're going to be throwing up a ton of short form content in the future as well. I appreciate you all making it to the end of the video, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe to the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.